As I begin the journey to my sense of place, I enter what was once a four-wheeler trail. I come to a fork in the road where I decided to take the right because it is a more gradual incline than the other. The other I can compare to a 45-degree incline. It's probably not that, but it gets really, really steep. Taking this trail, I walk along the side of a runoff ditch that comes off the one side of the road, comes out on this side. I used to play in this little ditch when I was younger. I would build up dams, let them fill with water, and then release the water to wash it crash down over the other rocks. And it would eventually run off the edge and down into the big creek. As I am walking towards the drop-off, you can see a pile of previous finds from other adventures I'd taken. I come down here often and just hike, explore. Sometimes I'll follow deer trails, or I'll just walk along the edge of the creek. Here I am deciding how I'm going to climb down and not break a bone, preferably. As I jump and stumble upon this clutter of rocks, I make it to the creek bed, as I've now made it to my sense of place. As I begin to cross the creek, I am careful of where to put my feet so the current doesn't push me off my balance and I don't fall in. Although today it is very low. It was also on one of my first trips down here with my dad. We'd found a geode about the size of the basketball. It was just one example of some of the finds we've had. Another was in some brush. We'd found a perfectly good rocking chair from May's greenhouse when it had flooded. A few boards were warped, but with a little hard work, it's almost brand new. As I continue my journey back and through the brush on the other side of the creek and the piles of debris caught up from when the tide has risen really high after it rains. Usually I scan these big piles for anything of value, anything worth collecting. It was also around back here that I'd found a dead red-tailed hawk, believe it or not, laying there, still limp, so it must have just died within an hour or two before I'd found it. Unfortunately, I could not find any photos that I had of it. I had made the conclusion that a bald eagle had snapped its neck mid-flight and it just fell to the ground dead. It is within the eagle's nest territory, so the eagle could have seen it as a threat. They are also very territorial, so they could have just killed it to kill it. Continuing on my walk, I usually listen to music, or I will just walk and talk to myself, because there's not much else to do. There's also a lot of fish here in this creek, although I would not recommend fishing here. Anything you catch, I would release it back into the water because of a refrigerator plant that was shut down a long time ago. It leaked Freon into the water system, so anything out of this water is pretty contaminated. Not as much as it was then, it is now. Here is when I decided to turn around and go back towards the way I came from. As I continue walking towards the other piles of debris and brush, I glance for any last thing I may have overlooked on my first run that could be of value of some sort. This time I did not find anything, which isn't always the case, but it's also not a bad thing to come back empty-handed. Here I emerge from the woods, and I make my way back to the creek to cross. I walk along the final stretches of the creek bed on the other side of the creek as I attempt to cross back over in a shallower spot. Although I do believe